Spanish Unit, Stanley Medical College.
Good afternoon, sir. I am audible.
Audible, visible, proceed.
Good afternoon. I am Dr. Gavin Frederick from Stanley Medical College, postgraduate. I am going to present a spasm not due to shadows. I first thank our director, Dr. Ganesh sir, and my moderator, Dr. Vinod sir. A 10-year-old male child of non-consanguineous marriage came with chief complaints of posturing of both upper limb and lower limb. The child was brought to our room and had posturing in the form of corpopedal spasm, lasted for the past 2 days. Tingling sensation and myalgia was present in both upper limbs. Child was responding to oral comments. He had similar episode 2 years back. On negative history, there was no history of yellowish discoloration of eyes, abdominal pain, high-colored urine, pale-colored stools, suggestive of obstructive cholestatic jaundice. No history of frequent diarrheal episodes, steatorrhea, suggestive of malabsorption, and there was no history of pallor, reduced urine output, polyuria, hematuria, and urinary tract infection, suggestive of CKD, RTA, and Fanconi. There was no history of any anticonvulsant steroid intake, which increases the metabolism of vitamin D. There was no history of a recurrent infection, congenital cardiac anomalies, suggestive of congenital hypoparathyroidism, and there was no history of surgical procedures, radiation exposure, recurrent blood transfusion, suggestive of acute hypoparathyroidism, and there was no history of allergy to milk products, excessive intake of grainy leaf vegetables and grains. His newborn period was uneventful. There was no neonatal seizures and history of inadequate due to COVID was present. And what is adequate exposure? It is exposure to direct sunlight for more than 2 hours for 2 days in a week from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m., exposing at least 30% of the body surface area. No family history of rickets or unexplained short stature in family members, no psychological disturbance in child, and there was no history of delayed eruption of teeth and delayed milestones. On examination, the child is well built, no pallor, no clubbing, no icterus, no generalized lymphadenopathy. Vitals were normal. The weight and height falls between 50th to 75th centile, and BMI was also normal, 17.2. The fundus was normal. Head to foot examination. There was no features of rickets seen, no mucocutaneous candidiasis, vitiligo, alopecia, no subcutaneous hard nodules, short stubby fingers, and Chopstick and Draussia sign was positive. It's a child with tetany, possibly due to hypocalcemia, with no features of rickets. So we kept a differential diagnosis of vitamin D deficiency, nutritional or secondary cause, dietary calcium deficiency. It could be a hereditary or acquired hypoparathyroidism, hypomagnesemia, and pseudo-hypoparathyroidism. So we started the evaluation. On investigation, the serum calcium was 4.9 milligram per deciliter. So the hypoalbuminemia shows falsely low total calcium level. For every 1 gram fall in albumin, total calcium falls by 0.8. For our child, the albumin level is normal. Alkalosis lowers ionic calcium level and acidosis raises ionic calcium level. For our child at a pH of 7.4, the ionized calcium is 0.7 millimoles per liter. So the normal ionized calcium is 1.0 to 1.4 millimoles per liter. So it is a low ionized calcium. We took a LFT to rule out secondary causes of vitamin D deficiency, obstructive cholestatic jaundice, and defect in bile acid metabolism. The ALP was elevated. The ALP is elevated due to the alkaline phosphatase is secreted by osteoblast, liver, kidney. In hypocalcemia, there is a secondary elevation of parathormone, which causes due to increase the serum calcium by resorption of bone by osteoclast activity. So there will be a compensatory increased bone formation by osteoblast. So the ALP is elevated. The RFT was normal. The serum electrolytes PS CBC was normal. The urinary calcium creatinine was 0.05. If it is more than 0.2, it indicates hypercalciuria. So PTH, if it is low, it could be a hereditary or acquired hypoparathyroidism or hypomagnesemia. If it is high, it could be a vitamin deficiency, vitamin D, VDDR type 1 or VDDR type 2, pseudo-hypoparathyroidism or CKD. For our child, the PTH was 497.4 picogram per ml. So hereditary and acquired hypoparathyroidism was ruled out. Hypomagnesemia usually presents as tetany and seizure in infantile period. The causes are genetic, malabsorption, aminoglycosides. Mechanism of hypomagnesemia causing hypocalcemia is not clearly understood. Probably it impairs PTH release. The treatment is administration of magnesium promptly corrects both calcium and magnesium. For our child, the magnesium is 1.6 milligram per deciliter, which is normal, so it rules out hypomagnesemia. The VDDR type 1 and VDDR type 2 usually present at age of presentation is during the first 2 years of age or infancy, and they will have the features of rickets. As there is no features of rickets and our child is 10 years old, VDDR type 1 and type 2 is ruled out. In order to differentiate pseudo-hypoparathyroidism and vitamin D deficiency, we did the serum phosphorus level. If serum phosphorus level is high, it could be a pseudo-hypoparathyroidism. If it is low, it is a vitamin D deficiency. Pseudo-hypoparathyroidism, it is a genetic defect of PTH adenylate cyclase receptors. The serum PTH is elevated when the child is hypocalcemic or normocalcemic with elevated serum phosphorus. There are 4 types of pseudo-hypoparathyroidism. All will have elevated parathormone and phosphorus. PHP1A will have features of Albright hereditary osteodystrophy with the hypocalcemia, which is the most common, and PHP1B and 2 will have no bone abnormality and they will present with hypocalcemia. PHP1C is a mild variant of PHP1A. In Albright hereditary osteodystrophy, they will present with short stature, round faces, obesity, brachydactyly, intellectual impairment, and heterotrophic calcification. The typical finding is short 4th and 5th metacarpals and metatarsals. Our child not had any feature. In our child X-ray, both hands was taken and which was normal. Then what is pseudo-hypoparathyroidism? These children will have Albright hereditary osteodystrophy finding with normal calcium and normal parathormone level. For our child, the serum phosphorus was very high. Is our child is PHP1B or 2? So as per textbook of Harrison's Principle of Internal Medicine, the diagnosis of PHP1A can be easily made out when there is a positive family history with the features of Albright hereditary osteodystrophy with hypocalcemia. But PHP1B and PHP2 present only with hypocalcemia, so the diagnosis is more complex and vitamin D deficiency must be excluded before such a diagnosis can be entertained. So we did a vitamin D. The total vitamin D was 18.7 nanogram per ml. It comes under insufficient level. In our child, even repeated serum phosphates levels tend to be in a higher range. So as per Sperling's pediatric endocrinology textbook, typically hypophosphatemia is more severe than hypocalcemia in vitamin D deficiency. So we suspected pseudo-hypoparathyroidism strongly. In one half of patients with the pseudo-hypoparathyroidism, amorphous deposits of calcium and phosphate were found in basal ganglia. So we did the CT brain. There were multiple foci of calcification in bilateral thalamus, lenticular and dentate nucleus. The TFT and serum testosterone level were normal. Finally, it's a child of pseudo-hypoparathyroidism. We treated the child with oral calcitriol at 0.04 microgram per kg per day and calcium at 150 mg per kg per day. They have less risk of treatment-related hypercalciuria as the distal DCT remained responsive to parathormone. To be followed up every 3 months for serum calcium, serum phosphate, and 24-hour calcium level. The parathormone to be maintained at 50 to 150 picogram per ml. If hypothyroid, to be supplemented with thyroxine, and if obesity, diet advice and advised diet restriction and regular physical exercise. On follow,